And listen to this story. She lived on a kibbutz called Kibbutz Re'em, located on the Gaza border. She was the cultural director of this kibbutz, and she was also the organizer of the Nova Festival. On October 7th, Simchas Torah, when the terrorists infiltrated the border, they came into Kibbutz Re'em and they murdered Daphne's 2 children and her mother. Until this Simchas Torah, until this massacre, Daphne fought off religion, fought off Torah, fought off mitzvahs. And she herself was taken into captivity. She was a hostage and then finally released. After her release, she gave an interview and she gave a tour of the kibbutzim that were destroyed and massacred. And the one who was writing this up, his name was Danny Wise. They toured the kibbutz and they saw the charred houses, heaps of metal, shattered glass. And she turns to Danny Wise and she says, "This is our Shoah." And Danny Wise says, "Yeah, this reminds me of Kristallnacht. The burnt shuls, the shattered glass." And then he turns to her and she says, "Daphne, where's your shul? Where's your burnt shul? Where are your Sifrei Torah? Did the terrorists not touch the shuls and the Sifrei Torah?" She laughed ironically and she says, "There was no shul. There was no Sifrei Torah for them to touch or to burn or to massacre. There are 21 kibbutzim here and not one shul." But she says this time it's going to be different. We're going to be rebuilding these kibbutzim. And you know what's the first thing we're going to rebuild? You know what the first structure is? A shul. A shul. Danny Wise looks at her and says, "How could that be? You fought Yiddishkeit for your whole life. You're not observant. And now you're going to build a shul?" She says, "Let me tell you my story. I was brought to Gaza into a tunnel, and I was tortured and beaten. And the guard who was beating me, the terrorist, I turned to him and I said, 'What are you doing? Why are you beating me? My whole life I wanted to make peace with you. My whole life I made programs, us and the Arabs. And now you're doing this?' She says, 'We're cousins.' 'No, you're not even a child of Abraham. You're not even a Jew.' And he spits at her. She's shocked. 'I'm not a Jew? I'm not a Jew?' She says, 'No, you're a European colonialist. You came from Europe to Palestine to steal our land.' At that moment, she realized she has been living a life of denial and delusion. She says, 'I used to travel. When I traveled, people would ask me, "You Jewish?" You know what I respond? "No, I'm Israeli." I never identify myself as a Jew. I identify myself as an Israeli. And now I could understand this terrorist didn't see me as a Jew. You know why? Because I don't see myself as a Jew. At that moment, she screamed in Arabic, she says, "Ano Yehudiya! Ano Yehudiya! Ano Yehudiya!" They wanted to shut her up. They taped her mouth closed. And she realized at that moment, she has a Jewish neshama. I have a Jewish soul. Says, "In Mitzvah Hashem, I'll get out of here. And the first thing I'm going to do is go back to the kibbutz and rebuild. But the first thing I'm going to build is a shul." She didn't give up in that tunnel. She was reinvigorated. She realized that she has a true mission. We could learn from all of these people that sometimes we face difficult situations. It should never be a situation where our world is turning dark or upside down. But it could be a hard time with shidduchim for a child, health, parnasa, and sometimes you want to give up. Don't give up. Kaveh el Hashem. Hope to Hashem, and Hashem will take care.